Hello, I'm Joanne Law, Director of Studies for Mediation Institute, and this is the recording of a webinar we had with Natalie Armstrong Motin. Do apologise, there is some background noise right at the start, but bear with us, it does improve and it is really well worth watching. We're very happy to have someone with your experience join us. So thank you, and welcome.
Well, thanks very much for having me. I really appreciate everyone spending their evening, or if they're in another location in the world, just any part of their day or evening. And I think that you are right. I've spent 20 years, well, more than 20 years, promoting neutrals, mediators, arbitrators, dispute review board members, building processes, procedures, organizations, associations, their literature all over the world. And it is a unique industry. It's an industry that I happen to love very much. I'm a second generation resolutionist. My father is in ADR as well. And it's something that we were able to experience firsthand and fell in love with the processes and decided to pursue it as a career. What I started doing was helping people of various backgrounds find appropriate trainings. And they just kept coming back to me time after time, asking for help in building their businesses. And so as it turns out, the training aspect of it was fairly short-lived for me, about 7 years. And the marketing and business development end of it has really become my career for the last few decades. But before we start, I just wanted to say thank you so much to the Mediation Institute for, first of all, inviting me, but most importantly, providing these courses on an ongoing basis. Part of building a successful mediation or arbitration practice is remembering that first and foremost, you're a business person. You're an entrepreneur. That you happen to specialize in mediation is secondary. And so having these practice development seminars is really key. Attending these seminars, buying business books, buying marketing, well, don't just buy them, read them. Buying and reading the marketing books is key to your success. Understanding that you're first and foremost an entrepreneur is really important. My most successful clients, regardless of specialty, niche, or locale, understand that they are business people who happen to provide neutral services. And they would be successful business people in any service industry that I dropped them into. That is the primary differentiating factor between my most successful clients and my moderately successful clients. Before we move on, I do want to mention that Joanne and her organization have the Mediation Awareness Week coming up, and that's going to be October, is it 15? Let's see.
Yeah, 15 to 21, yeah.
Yeah, and so one of the ways that you can market and promote your particular practice is to participate in these kinds of events. And just participating isn't enough. In an ideal scenario, you would chat to Joanne, you would find some common program or offering, right, that you could provide for Mediation Awareness Week. But then for your practice development purposes, you want to tag or use that connectivity in all of your social media platforms, to all of your database, to your primary, secondary, and tertiary target markets. And it doesn't matter that they're not in mediation. What matters is that you're creating for yourself a credible authority position in this industry, that you're thought of well enough and that you think highly enough of our industry that you participate in this way. That's how you turn something that is a volunteer, something that aids our industry as a whole, but you turn it into your personalized and very specific marketing program. So I would encourage everyone who's listening to participate in Mediation Awareness Week. Do what you can. And I know that it might seem contrary at first that we help and promote other resolutionists. But in fact, that's not the way that marketing and business psychology work. It works in the same way that a jewelry district works, or restaurant row works, or the garment district, or any other district. You know, all of Hollywood is in one relatively small neighborhood in Los Angeles. And so it seems as though we're marketing and promoting our competition, but what we're actually doing is building our industry. And we're moving away from being the alternative dispute resolution to the norm. We don't want to be the alternative. We want to be the norm. And so the more that each of us promote, not just ourselves, but our industry as a whole, the more business there is, for each of us subsequently. So I know that it seems contrary, but in fact, it doesn't work that way. If we promote each other, we promote the industry, we all win. And that's what we like as resolutionists, a win-win. So I hope that everyone has poured themselves a cup of tea, you found a pen, a pencil, a piece of paper, you're ready to go. We've only got an hour. That's quite short. So we're going to move fairly quickly. I do want to acknowledge that Ken Speakman has very graciously volunteered to allow me to talk about him and his practice as though he weren't participating at all. We're going to use him as the model, as the guinea pig. And Joanne let me know that he's got thick skin. I'll try not to abuse that too terribly much. But it's very nice that he's allowed us to use his practice as an example. So we're going to move forward and use Ken as a guinea pig. Is Claudia Sater on?
Don't think Claudia's here as yet.
There is a Claudia in here.
Oh, yes, you are.
Claudia? Oh, there she is. Hello, Claudia. Well, Claudia sent a specific question, and so I'm going to read her question. Her question is, as a graduate in startup and family mediation, how and when do I approach local family law lawyers for client referrals? And that's an excellent question. And so I wanted to mention you and your question, Claudia, so that you know that you're not being ignored. But your question is going to be answered, I promise, over a variety of topics, because it's not just one answer. There is no silver bullet. There is no magic trick. If there were, I'd be the wealthiest woman in Normandy. That's just not how it works. The way that we build practices as service industry providers is through a layering of activities that let our primary, secondary, and tertiary target markets know that they can trust us. And trust is really the most important commodity in our industry. And to build the trust with our target markets, we have to do a wide variety of things, and we're going to layer those. But before we start talking about specific activities, I want to talk about your practice, the business end of things. The business end of things are choices that we all have to make about our position in the market, the price that we're going to charge, maybe the name of our practice, what niche or specialty we're going to occupy. After that, then we create this plan that we're going to talk about 6 months to 1 year. So let's talk about your position, your position in the marketplace. Unless you're in a very small, and I mean very small village or town, it's a very difficult thing to build a practice that is a general practice. And I have a lot of people contact me and say, well, I'm a mediator. I can mediate anything. My response is always, I'm sure you could. Your skills aren't the issue. Creating a generalized practice in a large geographic population, it's just too expensive. It's too time consumptive. And for the purposes of building a business, creating a specialty, having a niche lets you promote and market your services to a specific organization. It lets you build authority and credibility for a specific group of people. It means that when you're marketing yourself, because you're not Coca-Cola or IBM, we don't have massive budgets. work staff for unlimited time. We do need to do one thing, do it really well. And that means that having a niche or a specialty is the preference. If you don't have just one thing that you do, perhaps think about choosing specialties that are easily relatable one to the other. So you might choose real estate. You might choose homeowner associations, condominiums, that kind of thing. If you're like Ken and you're going to choose a practice that is families and relationships and their monetary issues and concerns, those are three distinct things, but they marry well with each other. Those are things that are relatable and that he can market and promote to a specific group with ease, right? So, for example, don't get so far afield that you're handling pre-wedding disputes, which is a very valid niche, pre-wedding disputes and Airbnb issues. Those things are not easily relatable, and it's too difficult for us to market and promote them. So choose one thing, do it really well. When you're choosing who it is you're going to market and promote to, it's important to choose your position in that marketplace. Most of us will have competition. And so how we set ourselves apart, our unique selling position, we can't be first to market. That's not possible. That ship has long since sailed. And so what we have to do is set ourselves apart in some other way. It might be that our background is unique and special. It might be that the services we offer are different or unique. And it might be that we set ourselves apart via price. And price is a tricky thing for our industry. Because we are hourly paid consultants, we have all of us capped our own salaries. That's just the hard math of it. There are only 24 hours in the day. We can only mediate or arbitrate so many of those hours because the rest of the time we have to read briefs, we've got to prepare ourselves, we've got to take out the trash, all of these kinds of things. So we've capped our own salaries. You can make more money by doing what you do more often. For us, that's a challenge. You can charge more for what you do, but the market at some point will dictate that enough is enough and they're not going to pay an atrocious sum of money. I have a few clients who charge extraordinary amounts of money, $20,000 for a day session. But globally, I have a handful of those clients. Most of us charge somewhere between $250 and $500 for the hour. You can play with that a little bit if you want to go billing half day versus full day. If you're going to bill half day versus full day, charge more for the first half of the day than the second half of the day, because I don't have to explain to you all that when you do a half day session, it takes a full day's effort. So charge more for the first half than the second half. The other way to make money, which is a great way to make money, is to make money off of other people. And that's the business model of panels. And so if you were going to start a panel of other mediators or arbitrators, then you would make, on average, 30% of all of their billable time. And so that's the third way that we make money on our industry. We do what we do more often, we charge more for what we do, or we make money off of other people. Those are the basic ways that our industry make money. And you've got to choose for yourself which one of those is the better fit. If you don't have a name yet for your business, I want you to think about what your goals and aspirations, what is your endeavor with this business? If your goal is to simply help people, and which is very admirable, and you practice for as long as you intend to practice, that's excellent. You can name your business after yourself. So Ken could name his business Speakman Mediation, and that would be fine. But if in a consultation I found out that Ken wants to build a business that upon his retirement he might be able to sell or harvest, then I'm going to recommend to Ken that he name his business something not himself, because long after he's gone and people are no longer hiring his business for him, they're now hiring it because of someone else's efforts, the Speakman doesn't apply any longer. And so Ken has done a smart thing, and I'm going to assume that he wants to harvest his business at the end, because he's named his business FDR Mediation. And so depending on what it is your goals and aspirations are, name your business something that is harvestable at the end, a business name. If that's not your goal, you can name it anything you want. But choose a name that is positive, that has some action potential, that has a positive benefit orientation. For example, because no one consulted me, our industry is named the Alternative Dispute Resolution Industry, which is absolutely horrible. We shouldn't be the alternative. Alternative smacks of alternative medicine, alternative lifestyle. Alternative is not the norm, and we should be the norm. Dispute, there's just hardly an uglier word in the English language. So when you're thinking about naming your business something, think about words that are positive. Focus always on the positive. You can flip anything and make it a positive. So those are some business choices that we want to make. After those business choices have been made, then we move on to actively promoting and marketing our industry. And the key ways in which we do that are, again, the ways that allow us to establish credibility and authority in the eyes of our primary, secondary, and tertiary target markets. And they're fairly simple, right? Marketing and promoting for our industry to create credibility and authority means that we spend the bulk of our time, when we're talking about marketing, we're spending the bulk of our time writing, speaking, training, and networking. And those four things, writing, speaking, training, and networking, are really the primary ways in which we establish ourselves as credible authorities to our target markets. When I talk about writing, I have some people say, well, I don't write. I'm not a good writer. I'm not an author. It might be that your blog simply shares what other people have written, but the articles will reflect your particular position. It is best for you to be the author. Writing doesn't have to be a white paper. It doesn't have to be something published in a law journal. Writing can be short and sweet, as short as something on Twitter, as long as something, 1,200 to 1,500 words is what most people are willing to spend time reading. And when we're writing, we want to be sure that we are writing at the preferred language level of our anticipated reader. So if Ken wanted to talk to families values ministers at the parliament, his language would be a bit higher. If Ken is writing for mommies and daddies, the language is going to need to change and become what's called kitchen English. It's the language that you use around your kitchen table. And so he's going to change the way in which he writes, the words that he uses, etc., depending on the audience. And what Ken is going to write are things that educate people about the problems that they have and the solutions that Ken offers, or the processes. The writing that Ken is going to do will have very little to do with Ken and a great lot to do with the reader. And writing is so terribly important in this particular day and age, because our target markets have simply become accustomed to everything being a narrative. It didn't used to be that way. Prior to the internet, Ken could have sent out an article with bulleted points and just gone right down a list, 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, not a problem. But in 2018, where everything is a narrative, every TV program, every Audible book, every YouTube video, every Instagram, every Twitter, everything is a narrative. And so Ken needs to write things in that vein, write a narrative. And if you've got a story that you want to tell based on actual experience, please be careful that you have changed the details, changed the information so that the actual participants are not identifiable. We don't want to have any problems with confidentiality issues, but can use actual case information, write it up into a narrative, and set that out. What people really like when they're reading those kinds of narratives is to be able to find themselves in the story. They want to identify themselves in the story. The opposite of that, of course, is that it's what's called the Jerry Springer effect. And people want to read those worst case scenarios so that they feel better about themselves. They can read those ugly stories and think, oh, well, I'm not nearly as bad off as that. And that makes them feel better. And we always want to leave in our writing or our speaking or our training or our networking. We want to leave people better off when we leave them than when we found them. Making people feel better about themselves and their situation, reassuring them about their situation, their relationships, their business, their interaction with you, that's really what moves the conversation forward. And moving that conversation forward is imperative because on average, it takes us 6, 7, or 8 touches, marketing touches, for us to convert a potential client into a prospective client. The reason that it takes so many touches for us is that, much like mediation, you have to be able to provide the right answer to the right person at the right time. In a mediation, if you help someone find the right answer at the wrong time, it's the wrong answer. The same is true in marketing mediation. We have to provide people the right answer at the right time. Repeating again, the touches, it takes us 6, 7, 8 is the average touch. It takes us a while, right? We have to have an ongoing conversation with our clients. It has to be. I wish I could, tell you, oh, you just send a postcard and someone will call you and hire you. That's not how it works. Just like in our mediation rooms, it's an ongoing conversation. So writing short, sweet, doesn't have to be an academic paper, and writing on your website for a blog, writing for your primary target markets, readers, their newsletters. I'm sure that, every ADR organization and association would appreciate you submitting an article to them, but you're preaching to the choir. They're not going to hire us. You want to write and submit those papers to your target markets, newsletters, their blogs, their e-zines. It's where they are. We appreciate it, we love it, but we're not going to pay for your services. The same is true for speaking, training, and networking. As much as I love the ADR industry, I need you to spend the bulk of your time in your target markets industry, writing, speaking, training, networking there. We love you, no questions, but don't spend your time with us. Spend your time with the people who are potentially going to hire you. So for Claudia, that's going to be, and Ken as well, that's going to be the family section of the bar associations. Those are family attorneys. Those are going to be families. Those are community centers. That's, the local sports club. Where do families go? Maybe it's their accountant. Maybe it's their marriage and family therapist. You can think about all of the different gatekeepers that deal with family issues, and those people then become your secondary target market. But writing, speaking, training, and networking in your primary, secondary target markets, associations, organizations, talking to their gatekeepers, that's where you spend the bulk of your time. Trust me, we as resolutionists, we will be here for you, supporting you in all kinds of ways. But building your business, you need to take it outside of our industry. So you want to write for them, something short, something sweet. Like I said, 1,200, 1,500 words. If someone publishes an article that you've written, be sure that on your social media platforms, you copy that, you forward that, you use that. That's how you build from that. So you tweet that you got your article published. You put it on LinkedIn that you got your article published. You provide the link to the article, the link to the association. You use it. So don't just write the article, get it published, and say, thanks, that's enough. Really use that publication and push things forward on all of your platforms. The same is true for speaking. Speaking is a great way for us to market and promote ourselves. Again, we're standing in the front of the room. We're the credible authority on the issue. My favorite thing when I speak at a big conference, I get dressed up, I put on my lipstick, put on my high heel shoes, give my speech, make everybody laugh. And then afterward, everyone that says thank you, they applaud, they walk out the door. But those people who have self-identified as being the most likely to hire me, they come to me at the podium. So I don't have to market and promote my services to 8,000 individuals. I speak to 8,000 individuals, and then 50 of them approach the podium at the end of my speech. They've already self-identified that they're in the right space, the right mind, the right time in their practice, that they want to hire me. Now I can focus all of my energy on just those 50 people. And so for my time investment, the ROI that I put forward, or get back rather, is much better time and money spent. So speaking is great. If you're not a great speaker, it's something that you can practice. You can join Toastmasters. You can practice on your friends. Practice on us. Use the ADR industry to practice your speaking. We're great at that. We're excellent listeners. And if you let us know that you're practicing, we'll actually give you feedback because we want you to do well. So practice on us. Speaking is something that is just mortifying for lots of people. It might be that you don't want to speak in front of a crowd live. That's okay. Doing these webinars is really, really difficult for speakers because there isn't an interaction. I see little teeny tiny pictures on my screen that don't give me enough detail to really make eye contact with people. And if I were looking at the little teeny tiny photographs on my screen, I wouldn't be making eye contact with them. I have to maintain eye contact with the little blue light that's at the top of my laptop. And that's hard to do. And so because there's no feedback, because I can't really see your faces, because I can't really have an interaction, this kind of speaking is probably the most difficult. So if you're not comfortable in a speaking environment, don't start here. This one is hard. Speak in front of a live group is much easier. But if that makes you uncomfortable, it might be that you start with just in the privacy of your own office or home. Speak to yourself. Create a little short video, and I mean short, 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. Use the software that comes on almost every new computer's platform, and put a little video of yourself on a YouTube channel that you start just for your practice. 2 or 3 minutes, that's a really palatable amount of time. It also means that you can create a series of videos because you're just going to talk in little bits and pieces and snippets. But every time you create that little speech, every time you put forward that little piece of information on the YouTube channel, you send that link out, again, to your database of primary, secondary, and tertiary target markets. You put it on LinkedIn, you put it on Twitter, you put it on your Facebook page, however you're promoting through your social media platforms. You want to market all of those little tiny speeches, little bits and pieces. And that's a much easier place to start because you can record, re-record, you can clip, you can edit, you can play with it a bit. Start there. Speak to us. I understand that's mortifying for a lot of people, but it's something that gets a little bit easier with time. An offshoot of speaking is training. And again, I know it sounds contrary, but if I told Ken or Claudia to find the local family bar association group and offer them a training about how to become a family mediator, I know that both of their eyes would get wide. And they would say, but I don't want to train my competition. I'm trying to build my business. And my answer is this. 99.9% of the people that Ken or Claudia would train up in that environment will not become family mediators. They will not become your competition. They will learn about what we do, how we do it, and for whom we do it. And when they find themselves in the situation of needing to hire a family mediator, they're going to think immediately of the credible authority that they know from having had a personal interaction, which is either Ken or Claudia. And they're going to call them up and say, hey, Ken, have you ever had one of these? I've got something here and maybe you can handle it. So that creates, and again, I know it sounds contrary, but that training is actually what creates for us that credible authority. And we really want to use that. Again, if you're going to do a training, market it across all of your platforms. Help the organization, association, or group market it to their platforms. You market it to yours, and you'll get more and more invitations to do those kinds of trainings. And they can be short. They can be the rubber chicken dinner that we all go to at the local hotel lobby. That's fine. Do, one or two little short pieces. Maybe create a menu of things that you're available to talk about. And they're short and they're sweet. You've got the handouts that you can provide for people so that people have your contact information and can follow up with you. But writing, speaking, training, excellent, excellent tools for us to be able to use. Networking. I know that people get a little bit nervous when we talk about networking. Networking can be uncomfortable. It's hard to be the only person in the room that doesn't know anybody else. If that's you, if you find yourself going to a conference and you don't know the other people, before you go, contact one of the chair people of that particular association or organization. Introduce yourself and ask if they would introduce you to fellow members. Most chair people, most members of boards are more than happy to do this for us. If you connect with them and just say, I'm new to the organization, I don't know anyone, this is what I do, this is what my goals and endeavors are in having joined this group, who can you introduce me to? Who should I really be talking to? Who are the movers and shakers inside this organization? You'll get those introductions. And once you've got that introduction, someone says, hi, Joanne, this is Ken. Ken, this is Joanne. Something you both have in common is, the intent to make communities better through grassroots promotion of communication, negotiation, and mediation in families and family environments. Maybe you can, maybe you could work on something together. And then as that chairperson, then I step back and I allow the two of them to communicate and move things forward. Networking, it's really easy for those of us who are social to forget that we're there to work and not just socialize. And for as much fun as I have talking to Ken about his golf game and his grandchildren and the art that he's collected at the local art fair over the weekend, those are brilliant conversations to have, and they're important for us to have because it lets us get to know one another. But we're there to work. When you're networking, remember it's networking. It's not net eating, it's not net dancing, it's not net sitting, it's not net joking, it's networking. Go with a purpose. Before you spend your valuable time and money at a networking event, maybe sit down and make a list of the things that you really want to gain from having attended this event. Why are you going? Is it to increase your database of potential and prospective clients and prospects? I hope that's why. Is it so that you can get to know the organization and association because you have an intention of running for one of the elected board positions, which is great for us, by the way? So make a list of the reasons that you're going. Don't just go. Really go with a little bit of forethought. When you get there, then really work on achieving those goals and endeavors, whatever they might be. Maybe it's just as simple as I need to meet 10 new people. That's fine. That's simple. It's very doable. Meet 10 new people. When you go to do any of these things, speaking, training, or networking, I know I sound like your mother when I say this, but first impressions are really important, not just for you personally, but for our industry as a whole. I was astonished. I gave a seminar a few years ago in the United States, and one of the attendees came in a tracksuit and sneakers. And she was there to promote her business to our industry. And I was really embarrassed for her. It does matter how you look. It does matter how you present yourself. I'm not saying that if you're not Mel Gibson or Elle Macpherson, you're not going to do well in the industry. But the basic things that your mother told you, clean, tidy fingernails, that counts. Shoes that aren't muddy, that counts. Hay seeds in your hair, that counts. Those things matter. People make snap judgments about us before we even open our mouths. So it does matter. Then think about how you can prepare yourself for doing the work end of networking. I, again, am just constantly surprised at how many people will attend an event without any business cards in their pockets. And I know it's a really simple thing. Be sure you've got current business cards in your pocket, not the business cards with last year's address on it and you've scratched it out with a ballpoint pen and written your new current address on the back. Go with current professional pieces to hand out to people. They remember that, and you're held accountable for those kinds of things. And I know it seems silly, but it's true. Ladies, I'm sorry to say that although my mother was one of the women that marched for civil rights in the women's movement, very little has actually changed for us. And it is still true that women are seen first and heard second. Men are heard first and seen second. It's really important for us ladies to not put up a roadblock when people are seeing us so that we can get to the point that they're hearing us. And that is the horrible, sexist, ugly truth of the world that we live in. I have no other horrible things to say about that particular situation, but it is true for us. Women are seen first, heard second. Men are heard first, seen second. So ladies, we do have to try a little bit harder than the gentlemen, sadly. Networking. So you've met someone. Ken just found a great client that he really wants to work with. He's shared stories. They see eye to eye on things. They think he's a fantastic professional. They exchange business cards. Now, what does Ken do? He's got to go back to his office and make best use of this new connection. How can he do that? Well, before Ken leaves this new networking contact that he's just made, he's going to want to set up the next conversation he's going to have with them. He's going to, in advance, think about what it is that he can send them, say to them, provide for them. How can he better help them? How can he serve them so that he can subsequently sell them on his service? And so he will have identified maybe they need an ADR system installed in their business. That's not something Ken does necessarily, but he knows someone who could do that for them. And so Ken will make that introduction, or he'll send an article, or he'll send a link, or he'll send a contact and help them out. For us, serving is really important, and especially serving before we sell. Selling doesn't work for us because, one, it's probably not the right time, right place. But secondly, when we try to sell services, the assumption, the perceived assumption on the recipient's end is, why are you selling this to me? If ADR is that great, it should be that great on its face. Why, you don't have to sell it. I mean, you sell things that need to be sold. If it's really great, I'll know it. Just explain to me what it is. And so selling doesn't really work for us, but serving does. Serving replaces selling for us, for our industry. So Ken is going to identify what it is that his folks need that he's just met at his networking event. He's going to go back to his office and he's going to do that. All the effort that you put into writing, speaking, training, and networking is for naught if you don't follow up with the people that you've met or added to your database or somehow done something for. So Ken's got to make a program for himself, maybe 4 or 5 different ways that he can follow up with this person. And the way that he's going to follow up with this person are with bits of information, things, events, or conversations that help the person. We can educate people, that's the easiest, right? We can provide them further information, we can make connections, we can make introductions, but Ken is going to do something that helps this person, that serves this person, that educates this person, that provides some benefit to this person. If Ken just sends out a postcard that says, hey, my name's Ken, I'm the coolest, sexiest mediator in the village, and you've got to pay me a whole lot of money for my services because nobody does it better than me, he's not going to get a single client. He might get a few laughs, but he's not going to get any clients. Helping people is what we do naturally. Just make that a part and parcel of your marketing efforts. Helping people with the content of your speech, helping people with the contents of your article, helping people that you've met at a networking event, helping people through training them, right? That's the best thing that we can do to market and promote. Usually what I do for clients is help them set up 6 months or 1 year's worth of calendared things that they're going to do. So I'll say, for example, month 1, you need to set up all of your base materials, your website, your business card, all of those kinds of things. Your social media, your marketing platforms. All of those need to get set up. You need to identify your primary, secondary target markets. Where are they? Find their organizations, find their associations, find the periodicals that they read. Where do they socialize? Where do they do what they do? And then you need to go there too. 2, you've got to have something to say to them. You've got to curate content. Again, write for them, speak for them, train for them. If you don't have enough material, find someone else, share on the internet, copy, paste, always give accreditation. Use somebody else's content until you've developed enough of your own. While you're writing, speaking, training, network, while you're doing these things, always remember that your social media accounts have to be kept current. Social media is a powerhouse like none other. So every time you write something, every time you train somewhere, every time you speak somewhere, every networking event that you're going to, tag it, note it on your social media accounts, your LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, wherever your primary target market is, Pinterest, wherever people are. Share that information. Copy it, send it, link it. The same is true for every piece of information you have. If you send out an email, when Ken sends me an email, because he and I were networking together and he sends me an article that he thinks might be of interest or edification, his signature line is going to make it easy for me to contact him back or to connect with him on other platforms. His signature line is going to have his signature, of course. It's going to have his logo. It's going to have his contact information, his office address, his telephone number. If he prefers a mobile number, but it's also going to have the little Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook icons that let me connect with him easily and appropriately. You don't want to have your email signature so long that I have to wade through it with inspirational quotes and all kinds of things. You don't want to have more than 2 fonts, more than 2 colors. You don't want to get it overwhelming, but it should be complete, and it should make it easy for people to connect with us on every other platform. Follow me, find me, tweet me, like me, all of those kinds of things need to be available. Let's talk about social media for just a little bit. Social media, your website, your print collateral, all of those things, they need to have an identifiable continuity. So when I'm looking for Ken or Claudia online, I found their Twitter account So I see Ken's pictures on Twitter, and now I want to find him on LinkedIn because my blog posts everything directly to LinkedIn. But the Ken Speakman I think I find on LinkedIn, I'm not really sure if it's him because the photograph is different. And when I drill through, his bio is a little bit different, so I'm not sure if it's the right Ken Speakman, if it's the right FDR mediation. So you need to have across the board on every bio, on every platform, in print format, social media format, it doesn't matter. Ken is going to use the same photograph and the same bio on every single platform. So that as I'm cruising around the internet or reading articles or whatever it is that I'm doing to research what kind of mediator I want to hire, I see Ken over and over and over and over again. That's really important. That creates a mind share that is super, super expensive if he has to buy it. But he can do it easily enough just by using the same avatar, the same image, the same logo, the same color scheme. And by the way, the color scheme that Ken is going to use has nothing whatsoever to do with Ken's favorite color. It has to do with the favorite color of his primary target market or the norm for that industry. If Ken likes hot pink, that's great for Ken. But his primary target market needs to be soothed. They need to be made to feel better. They need to have some positive reassurance. And those colors are blues and greens, not red, not pink, nothing too terribly bold, right? They need to be soothed. So on all of these pieces, you're using the same thing at the same time. Social media can get overwhelming. I understand. There's a lot of platforms and a lot of communication, and you sign up for all of them, and all of a sudden your inbox is just exploding with information and articles and links and messages, etc. It becomes a lot. And for a lot of us in solo practice, it becomes way too much. There are software pieces that you can buy, like Hootsuite, Hootsuite, Hootsuite. And that one piece of software can manage all of your online marketing efforts. It's sort of a one-stop shop, and there's several. Hootsuite is just one. So you put an article on Hootsuite. Hootsuite will copy it to your Facebook page, your LinkedIn page, post it on Twitter, post it on Pinterest. They'll post it to your YouTube channel all the way across. You can also load, this is what I do, I spend one day a month and I load 10, 15, 20 articles, links, bits of information, and then I calendar them to be sent at a later date so that I don't have to manage those accounts every single day. I manage it one day a month, and then for the rest of the month, those programs, those platforms are working for me as opposed to me working on them all the time, because it just becomes too much. It becomes unmanageable. And when things become unmanageable, we don't do it. We don't follow up on it. And then we're not using it the way we should. So social media, link all of your programs, make sure that all of your avatars, your logos, your bios are all the same across every board, and then find a software that you like, something like Hootsuite, to manage all of those things so that you don't have to. The same is true for your print collateral. If you're going to be writing, speaking, training, and networking, everything needs to have one consistent face, color, logo, message. It does your reputation, your credibility, your authority. It does it damage. If you open your wallet and say, well, this is my business card for baking wedding cakes, and this is my business card for my lawn care service. Oh, here's the business card for my mediation practice. Go prepared, go ready, and have the same face all the way across. You really want to have that professional image. It's not hard to accomplish. So you've done your writing, you're speaking, you're training, you're on the social media platforms. One of the most important things you can do for your marketing and business development is to develop a database of potential clients. And so you build this database of potential clients, right? And the idea is to move them from being potential clients to prospective clients to paying clients. And so moving them from category to category to category is the goal with having a database. And building a database isn't difficult. You can do it old-fashioned. Ken's a really smart guy, and he can handle, a database management software program. It might be that that's not your thing. You're not a tech person. Maybe you keep all the business cards that you collect in a shoebox on the side of your desk. That's fine too. Whatever your comfort level is. But having those contacts at your fingertips and keeping in contact, constant contact with those folks in your database is important. How much contact? Generally speaking, depending on industry specifics or holidays, Ken is going to contact his primary target market, secondary target market, and tertiary target markets about every 4 to 6 weeks. If he contacts them too much, they're going to feel claustrophobic by the communication. Unless they ask him for something, he doesn't want to just randomly reach out to his contacts too often, or they're going to get turned off and disassociate from him. But if he waits too long between connecting with all of the family attorneys in his area, they're going to start to forget who he was from the last contact, and he's going to spend time reintroducing himself, which is unnecessary. So about 4 to 6 weeks. Again, when you open your calendar to put all of these marketing activities in a 6-month or 1-year plan, take into account industry-specific lulls, holidays, seasons of, graduations and weddings and all of those kinds of things. Don't market during those down times. You can use holidays to your great advantage. Halloween is a great one because it's not a religious holiday. You can, have a little bit of fun. Say, there's nothing scarier than finding yourself in a dispute and, put up a funny picture of someone in a costume. So you can use those holidays to your great advantage. Religious holidays are hard. It used to be that before the internet, we would have a holiday party and invite all of our potential and prospective clients to a big party. But life is just too busy for too many people. It might be that you wait, and instead of sending out Christmas or Hanukkah cards, you send out New Year's cards. Start your new year off, using resolution providers like, Ken. Something like that. You can always, always find on the internet, which is a marvelous thing, find what today is. So yesterday, one of my favorite days was International Ice Cream Day. Woo! There's an International Peanut Butter Day. There's an International Love Your Mother-in-Law Day. There's an International Day for redheads. There's an International Day for everything. And so look ahead. So Ken's going to look ahead and see that next month is International Stepbrothers and Stepsisters Day. And he's going to prepare today a marketing program that lets him talk about step families and how to integrate one family with another, how to celebrate that. And then what happens if that newly integrated family falls apart and they get a divorce, right? Ken's going to write an article about the idea that husbands and wives divorce, families never do. And he's going to put that article out in celebration of International Stepbrothers and Stepsisters Day. So if you're lacking for an idea about something to write or speak or train about, those kinds of days they're fun, they're funny, and they're a great way for us to break the ice and have a conversation on social media, in print, on the internet, on our website, in front of a large group, just a networking event, whatever the case may be. Maybe you're just sending out an email to people letting them know, it's kind of funny, but it's going to be International Stepbrothers and Stepsisters Day. And this is something I deal with all the time in my practice. And let me tell you how I deal with it, right? So that's one of the ways that Ken's going to manage his communication. But databases are super important. Being careful to keep in mind all of the various laws and acts about privacy, about communication, the CAN Spam Act if you're sending to the United States, the new GDRP if you're, in Europe. Those kinds of things are really important. You don't want to use or abuse them. In your communications with people, you need to have full contact information, a physical address, a phone number that is free for people to reach, an email address, a way for them to unsubscribe. So read up about the laws for your specific geography, and don't use or abuse the database that you build. If someone asks to be unsubscribed, it's okay to ask them why. That would be important information. Have I contacted you too often? Are you no longer involved in the organization or association? Whatever the case may be. But really be careful about these relationships. They're really valuable. You don't want to abuse them. Our hour is almost up. I do want to say that when you get a client, when you have someone for whatever program they hire you for, spend money with you, be sure you say thank you. It's really, really important. And again, I know I sound like your mother, but say thank you to people. Send a little note or a card. Send a little 5-question survey that, says, how did you find my service? Was it a good service? Was I on time? And then say thank you. It's okay to ask an open-ended question and say, please feel free to use the space below to provide a testimonial or let me know what I can do better. And give them a little box to check so that if you can use that comment as a testimonial, be sure that you have their permission to do it, but then definitely use it. Testimonials matter. What Ken says about himself is important, but what I say about Ken is really important, right? So testimonials are imperative. Get permission, use them. They're really invaluable. Our time is almost up. I've talked about everything except something that's for me, and I know it's probably I'm the only one. But guerrilla marketing is super fun. Guerrilla marketing is an idea of doing your marketing and promoting in a slightly unusual way. So it might be that Ken goes to the local bookstore and opens all of the self-help books on the shelf, and into each one slides a bookmark with his information so that those people who have self-identified as wanting to have help with their family issues and concerns, and they go to a bookstore and buy a book about how to help themselves, will open it up and find a bookmark in it with, what do you know, Ken's information so that he can better help them. That's the kind of activity that is guerrilla marketing. So it doesn't just apply to social media platforms or whatever the case may be, but guerrilla marketing, it's a creative way, right? So it's a creative and generally not very expensive way to market and promote your services. So guerrilla marketing, I think it's fun because you get to play a little bit. You get to have a little creative moment express here, spend your energy in that way. So our hour is up, and I know that an hour isn't enough. I know that it's not enough. And I know that I just barely touched on most of the topics that you really have questions about. So Joanne, who's a fabulous moderator, has the ability to turn on your microphones or open the chat up to everybody so that even though I appreciate the hour you've spent with me, if you want to spend more time and ask specific questions, if you have a burning desire to know something or have me introduce you to someone or give you more information, I'm more than happy to do that at this time. I really want you to do well. I really want to answer your questions. So a lot of people are going to log off, and that's okay. You've spent your hour, and I love you for it. Joanne loves you for it. And again, we hope you join us for Mediation Awareness Week and your ongoing relationship with the Mediation Institute. But now if you're If your evening's done and you're going to say goodnight, that's fine. But if you've got something that you really want to chat about, Joanne will open it up now so that you can have that kind of interaction. And I'm happy to stay on and do that for you. So if you're saying good night, thank you so much for your participation and good night. If you want to stay on, Joanne will open it up and feel free to chat to me or to me.
We've got someone with a beep. I'm not quite sure who that is. So what I might do is I will. I've muted everyone again. I better unmute you. But invite you to unmute yourself. But not you, whoever's beeping. If you unmute yourself, I'm not quite
allowed.
Yeah, so and then before let me first just say thank you so much, Natalie. I've been I'm been an entrepreneur, I've been running businesses and marketing for quite a long while, but I've got pages of stuff that yes, absolutely. So I've got some great things that I'm going to be going and doing. So thank you very much. And we've got Catherine's little ones learning marketing as we speak, which is fantastic.
Never too young to be an entrepreneur.
Excellent. So any questions, further clarification? Come on, guys, you've got a great opportunity.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Sorry, the time here is early morning, so I don't know whether everyone's from Australia. I wondered firstly if anyone here was from the UK at all. Who'd logged on? Probably not.
Well, I'm sitting just across the channel from you. I'm an American who lives in Normandy, France.
Oh, okay. Yes, I did hear Normandy.
So you and I have the same weather systems. We have the same scenery, the same architecture.
Fantastic.
It's a little different, but
the other thing I wanted to know, and I haven't got to grips with it yet, is online mediation. I know that this talk wasn't about online mediation really, but I just wanted to know whether people are using it, how regular that was being done wherever you are based, and really how I could get some training also in relation to that, aside from my general mediation work.
Okay. ODR, online dispute resolution, is really powerful, and it's being used more and more often in a variety of fields. ODR, you can get training for it. It really does just require that you have the software. Most panels that provide ODR will give you the training and the information that you need. But it is used, and it's used more and more because all of us use hotels.com, Airbnb, Uber. All of us use these programs all the time. And so online dispute resolution is important. It's also important for those groups that have a triage requirement. So if you're doing landlord-tenant cases, and hold on one second. Monsieur, s'il vous plaît. While I've been talking to you, the Culligan man has let himself into my house and he's refilling the soft water system while I've got you all here online. Apologize for that, but that's just the way it goes. So ODR is important. It's really important for the triage that we were talking about. So if someone has an immediate need, they don't want something to go to mediation or arbitration. It's got to be handled right this minute so that we're resolving the issue and not the dispute. That's really the most important. So ODR requires this triage mentality, but they'll have those programs. They'll have that platform set up for you. And if you just do a Google search for the ODR programs, they'll be able to help you with that next step. But it is very viable, especially for those of us who have odd times, odd jobs, work at home, moms, those kinds of things. ODR is a fantastic place to use your services. It's also a great place for new mediators to really hone their skills.
Yeah.
It can be challenging in that you're not seeing the person sometimes face to face, and that can be more challenging for us. But it is a great way to start a career.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for asking the question.
I might just jump in there as well. We do use it a lot in Mediation Institute. And sorry, I didn't get your name. You were just using.
Sorry, Cynthia.
Cynthia. Yeah, Cynthia. So you and anyone else that's interested in learning about video mediation, because we do this stuff, welcome to come along to our role plays. We've got multiple role plays going on every week. So, yeah, just I'll be sending out a recording of this presentation. So anyone that is interested in that, that you just get in contact and we'll make the arrangements. So
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Can I just say to Cynthia, can you hear me, by the way?
I can, yes, thank you.
There are two of us from Leeds.
Ah, okay, hello.
So possibly we might be able to, via Joanne, make contact afterwards if you're
Thank you.
in that.
That would be helpful.
Excellent, excellent. So, are there any more questions?
Natalie, I have a question. I'm Vanita Demos from Melbourne, Australia.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you very much for tonight. Very informative.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
I'm just wondering, it's quite clear in this day and age that digital technology and online marketing is a very effective marketing tool. Is there still a place for traditional mail drops, flyers, executive summaries dropped off to family law firms to build up a family law practice?
I'm going to say that I think it's actually more important now than ever before. And the reason is because we've all become so used to electronic communication that it's a real delight when we get something in the mail. So, for example, if I send out 1,000 emails to 1,000 mediators or arbitrators worldwide, I can expect a rate of response of 1%. Right? I would hope for 2, but I know that 1% is the average. So for my personal practice, I ran an experiment because I want to experiment on me, not my clients. So I happen to live in Normandy, France. It's a really pretty area. So I went across the street to the little convenience store and I bought 100 postcards. Now they were on sale for 30 cents each, right? And I came back and sat at my desk and I spent maybe an hour and wrote 2 sentences on each little postcard, went to my post, affixed a stamp, and sent it off. I received from that little 100 postcard campaign 50 paying clients.
Wow.
Now, that's a remarkable rate of return. And something, Vanita, that you can, that you can use in your own situation. People really, we used to get mail, when we were kids, it was the greatest thing in the world. You'd run to the post and see, I got a letter, I got a card. We still like getting Christmas cards as adults. I mean, it's just that, that somebody spent the time to put pen to paper and lick a nasty tasting stamp and put it on the corner and then walk it across the street to their post box. That oddly means something to us. And I think it means more now than ever before. It means a lot more than an email or a text or an SMS or an RSS or a link or something digital. And so I would say, yes, Vanita, something in print that is personalized is going to carry a lot more weight than the email campaign that you run. So really carefully go through your database and choose those individuals that you want specifically for who they are or what they do, or that have gone from potential client to prospective client. And that's how you move them off prospective to paying clients. And so to those individuals, I would say yes, absolutely. Print media is super important. If you're going to be charging for your services at the high end of the spectrum, it's not a bad idea to up the dollar amount for each prospective client, not potential client, but prospective client. So for example, if there's a client that I really want to land, I log on to Amazon in whatever country they are, Amazon you know, UK, Amazon FR, Amazon AU, it doesn't really matter, Amazon.com. And I can order for them a book about marketing or business development or entrepreneurship. And it's relatively inexpensive. It's a couple of dollars for the book. It's a couple dollars for the delivery. And I get to have, because it's a gift, I get to have the little typed out gift card. And I send that to that law firm, or I send that to that neutral or organization or association. The same with my thank yous. I use the internet and send those little things. It might cost me $5, $6, $7 to send a book to a prospective client. But the $20,000 that I get when I move them from prospective client to paying client is a fantastic return on that investment. And all I need is for one or two of those people to make that move forward. And that pays for a lot of Amazon.com books. That pays for a lot of postcards at my little local convenience stores. But those kinds of touches are really important. People want to know that you've singled them out. They're not just on, you know, not just in your database. They're not just one of 15,000 people, you know, that you send the same thing to over and over and over. You've really paid attention to who they are, what they need, and how they want to receive it. So yes, Benita, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You haven't said anything, Natalie, about things like Google AdWords or Facebook advertising. I've used that for a hypnotherapy practice and found it just like a drain on money. So I'd be interested in what your thoughts are on this.
I think to say that it's a drain on your wallet, on your budget, is being really generous. AdWords work if you were selling T-shirts or coffee cups. They don't typically work for service providers. And for service providers to really get something out of Facebook ads or Google ads, you'd have to spend an extraordinary amount of money. So the reason you don't hear me talk about them is because I honestly don't believe in them. I don't recommend them. They've proven to not be beneficial to our industry at all. And so I wouldn't waste my time, my money, or my efforts on any of those kinds of programs.
Yeah, thank you. You're preaching to the converted there, but
yeah,
I did have someone else who was a marketing expert who that seemed to be his main thing, get on Google AdWords. So, but my belief, my experience would match what you said, to be honest.
Yeah, the Google AdWords, like I said, if you have an enormous budget, they will support what you create for yourself, which is being a credible, authoritative individual for our industry. But again, selling just doesn't work for neutral services. We just can't sell our services. We have to communicate with people. We have to provide them something of benefit. We have to have a relationship with people in our industry. And AdWords, Google, Facebook, all of those kinds of things, they work if we're selling a product, but not an interpersonal service like we're dealing with. And so I'm sorry that you had that experience, but thank you for asking the question.
Yeah, we've had some success with AdWords marketing mediations training. Fairly expensive, but our highest level course is quite expensive, so kind of return on investment, but I've never had much luck at all with mediation services. So I wasted a little bit of money, but it wouldn't be.
Yeah, and training is a product. You know, you're selling them something, and so you'll get a better rate of return.
More tangible.
Yeah, because you're not selling a service, but selling a service with those kinds of things, you know, it's not lawn care. You know, people come to us with real problems and real emotions and real issues. And at the end of the day, people might lose a business, you know, or a member of their family, or, you know, you just don't know. But that's the reason they have to trust us, is because this is interpersonal. Even if it's their business, it's personal. You know, when people say, oh, it's not personal, it's just business. Well, to the person who owns the business, it's quite personal. I assure you, everything is personal.
Yeah.
And that's why we have to have these established relationships, and not, we're not selling t-shirts. So I wouldn't waste the time or the money on the AdWord bit or the, the SEO thing that your tech guy wants to sell you.
Yeah.
One of the things you said, Natalie, I wrote it down because I thought it was brilliant. The right information at the wrong time is the wrong information. And yeah, it's just broadcasting money out into the
it is.
It's going to be
when you're thinking about your marketing, you're thinking about it in forms of communicating, and as neutrals, nobody should be better at it than we are.
Yeah.
We should be the masters at it. And so when you think about marketing and promoting your ADR services, in a hearing room, we've all been taught, and then we've learned it the hard way, that saying the wrong thing to the wrong person is really, really wrong. Saying the right thing to the right person but at the wrong time is still wrong.
Yeah.
Right? You have to say the right thing to the right person at the right time. And so just as in a hearing room, that's the key to success, in your marketing, that too is the key to success. So you've got to be marketing all the time. And that wears us down. It's expensive, it's time consumptive, and it's frustrating. So having a program like Hootsuite that will manage those things is really invaluable. Yeah. Any more questions? What else can I help you with or answer?
Stacey asked a question on the chat about fees and that sort of thing, and industry standards. To my understanding, there isn't an industry standard for fees. Is there anywhere you've come across?
There's not really an industry standard. Rates vary on your specialty and your geography. The tighter your niche, generally, the more you can charge, Stacey. So if I have one client who was sommelier, and the cases that he hears are anything and everything to do with vineyards or vintners. So it could be bottling, labeling. It could be something that I didn't even know existed, which is something called vine rustling. And that's where one vintner sneaks himself onto the property of another vineyard, clips a piece of vine, and then grafts it to his own, or grows it on his own in order to steal that vine. I didn't know that was a thing, but that's his specialty. Now that's a very tight niche, and he goes all over the world handling just those issues that have to do, anything at all to do with wine, right? And he's able to charge, he charges $3,700 per hour. And you pay for all of his travel expenses, right? But that's because he has such a very specific tight niche. And so I have a few clients who, based on their experience, based on their past lives, are able to do that. Most of us, though, charge somewhere between $250 and $500 per hour. The tighter our niche, the more we can charge. I do want to talk about volunteering. Are any of you volunteers? Are any of you giving it away for free?
I have done it in school system.
Sorry, couldn't hear that comment. Say that again. Someone?
Sorry, yes, Stacey here. I'm saying I've done it in the school system and like in the community level.
Okay.
In the school. Okay.
So volunteering, we can do to, again, establish ourselves as credible authorities if we're volunteering for a group that could potentially hire us. Volunteering, you can do it just because it's part of our human obligation to volunteer and to, be philanthropic. Those are good reasons to volunteer, but to volunteer after you've really fine-tuned your skills and really honed things, don't give it away for free. That devalues things. It feeds into the idea that most people have, that you get what you pay for. And so if our services are free, they're not very valuable.
Yes, agreed.
Right? So we have to be careful about how we volunteer. But for your particular situation, I would do a little research about other mediators and arbitrators in Trinidad, Tobago, the general region, and get an idea about what people in your particular niche are charging for their services. If you can be more specialized, you can charge a bit more. If you do the same, you want to charge about the same.
Okay.
If you want to set yourself up as having the financial competitive edge, charge less. And then use that in your promotion. You charge less and you do the same high quality work.
Okay.
Right? So you can use other people's salaries. So if their normal salary is $100 per hour, you can say, get the same high quality service for $80 an hour. You will take those clients away from your competition.
I see.
Right?
I see.
Now, again, keep in mind that you've capped your own salary because there are limited numbers of hours in the day. Right? So if you choose that as your unique selling position, you might think about then incorporating another mediator under you so that you can earn that 30% off of all of their billable hours so that you're making money off of other people. So if you're using low cost as your unique selling position, be sure that you're making money off of other people so that you can multiply.
Wow.
Right?
That's excellent.
Yeah, because the math that's super sexy is exponential math. Arithmetic math is great, but exponential math, now that's sexy.
Can I just ask, Natalie?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
When you're talking about dollars, are you talking about US dollars, Australian dollars, or which currency?
It actually, I would like to say it makes a difference, but in my experience, it doesn't. And
Right.
so if we're talking about euros or sterling or Singapore dollars, or it just doesn't seem to make a difference. It seems that for whatever reason, our industry has just this standard flat line.
Right.
That is applicable across the board. And I suppose it's because international law was sort of the birthplace of international arbitration and mediation. And then we've all taken it downhill from there into our own grassroots practices. But that level of pay seems to be standard internationally. So if it's 250 US dollars, it's also 250 sterling, and it's also 250 euro. And it's the strangest economic commentary, but it seems to be true right across.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Great.
You're welcome. What else can I answer for you? How many scales are on a rattlesnake's upper lip? I know the answer to that. I know all sorts of unusual things. It's 29, by the way. But for the purposes of marketing and business development, again, I'll say the most important thing is to always remember that you are first and foremost an entrepreneur. You're first and foremost a business person. You're a marketer. You happen to specialize in mediation or arbitration or ombuds work or facilitation, whatever your preferred process is. But never, never forget that you're first and foremost a business person. Go to business seminars, read business books. Go to marketing seminars, read marketing books, apply business practices, apply marketing practices. Those things, that mindset more than any other will take your practice to the upper echelons of your goals and endeavors for it. Thinking of yourself first and foremost as a mediator who happens to be trying to build a practice is deadly. It's deadly. Really, really have the mindset of a business person, a marketing person, an entrepreneur. That is the one thing that sets my most successful clients apart. All right? Any books that I recommend? Oh my gosh. The list is long. The list is long. I can tell you that my favorite at this particular moment are these two. Seth Godin, All Marketers Tell Stories.
Yes.
It's short, it's easy to read, it's anecdotal. You can get it on Amazon used for about 50 cents. But Seth, that's...
Seth Godin.
Yep.
Yeah, he's got a blog you can follow as well. Some great
He does. And then the other book that I really like of his is called Permission Marketing. And it really talks about the psychographics that are necessary for ongoing communication. I think that that's genius. He's really good. There's J. Conrad Levinson has written several books, in particular about guerrilla marketing, and I think that they're applicable. Again, they're short. They're a narrative. Oh gosh, there's just hundreds and hundreds. If you want to get a book about social media, Guy Kawasaki is one of my favorite social media authors.
Oh, okay. Is he Guy's son? I think. Is it so what's that called? The Art of, just lift it up, of social media.
Yeah, Art of Social Media. Again, it's short, inexpensive, easy to read, easy to apply. He's really good. For a slightly off-brand book about communication, I think my favorite is a book called Verbal Judo by George C. Thompson. And he was an English professor who became a police officer. And he gives you phrases and communication tips and techniques that you can use immediately in your mediation practice and communication. They probably would work talking to my dog. They're that effective and efficient. And they're short. And so it's things, he calls them points of insertion, or swords of insertion. But it's all about verbal judo. It's using someone else's energy to get them to move where you need them to be in a hearing room, and which I think is just brilliant. And so it might be learning how to not ask yes or no questions, right? So for example, Joanne and I are at an impasse, and George C. Thompson would come into the room and say, Natalie, what is it that I can do or say at this precise moment in time to get you to hear what Joanne really wants you to hear? Now, that's not a yes-no question. It's something that I actually have to think about and provide an answer to.
You can't. No, I don't want to hear what she's saying. Oh, really? Yeah.
Nope. Yeah. The question is, what can I do or say right now at this particular moment in time to get you to hear what Joanne really wants to communicate to you? Now I have to give an answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's a double bind. Like if you say there's nothing, it puts you, it's beautiful, great.
Right, and so he in verbal judo, he gives you these little swords of insertion. He tells you the story, and he tells you how to use them, and he tells you the exact phrasing to use, so that you can move people just like on a judo mat. And I think it's brilliant, and it's really underused in our industry. Again, it's short. You can buy it for a penny on Amazon.
Oh, I'm going to get that one.
Yeah, that one's good. He goes all over the world training mediators and arbitrators and police forces. And so he's the one who trains hostage negotiation teams.
Okay, yeah.
So he's excellent. He's brilliant. What else can I help you with this evening or this morning, depending on your geography? Everyone is satisfied.
Yeah, I think so. Is everyone satisfied? Very good use of your hour and a bit.
I think it's been an excellent webinar. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, you are more than welcome. It's been my great pleasure, Roger, to spend time with you. And everyone, I think, has a copy of the workbook. Use it. It's got my contact information in it, so that if you ever have a question or a quandary or a concern or a problem, or someone approaches you and says, you need to buy Google AdWords, drop me an email or pick up the phone and give me a call and say, hey, this guy says I should buy some Google AdWords. We'll talk about it, and I'll tell you, don't do it. But you'll get some opportunities that I'll say, yes, and here's how to make the most of them. So you contact me anytime you've got questions or concerns, or you want to have somebody just hear your idea. I'm always available.
Thank you. That's
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You are
awesome.
You are welcome.
And I've already implemented your suggestions as well.
I'm sorry?
I've already implemented your suggestions as well.
Oh, what have you done, Ken?
Uniform my picture everywhere, change the colour scheme, change my footer. I'm a busy little beaver.
All right. Ken, I did really enjoy going through your website. I would like to make one suggestion while you're in there monkeying around, if I may.
Yeah, go.
When we provide more than about, 250 words.
I don't like reading it.
To read, yeah. It's better for us to use a serif font as opposed to a non-serif font.
Okay.
The reason is because the little tails on a serif font, like on a Times New Roman font, those little tails create a visual liaison, letter to letter, making us not have to read a word letter by letter, but word by word and phrase by phrase. Because actually when we read things, we don't read word for word, we read phrase by phrase. And when, like on your about pages, you've got the graphic behind, and then you've got the words in front, and it's in white font over the graphic behind, and it's in a non-serifed font. You're making us work really hard to read those pages.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will start adjusting as we talk.
Ken's not going to bed tonight.
And I don't want to be critical, Ken, because overall your website is fantastic. It follows the general rule of 80-20, meaning that 80% of the content is about the reader and only 20% is about you. So really nicely done. But once you get people to your websites, it's hard to do, and you really want to keep them there. So don't make it harder for them to read a non-serif font on front of an image. It's hard on our eyes, it wears us out, and even though it's probably only about 1,000 words that you want us to read, it's still making it harder. And our job as business people is to make it easier for people.
Do you have a suggested font?
Times New Roman is the most popular on the planet for a reason.
Yeah.
I
I've
know
never
it's
been a
not
real
sexy,
time
but
New
it's
Roman
easy to
fan.
read.
Okay.
But any serif font works just fine. But Times is the most popular.
And it's almost done.
Just like that.
Almost.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions, concerns, problems?
No, I think we're good. So I was just letting everyone know, because I noticed we've had some people that have joined us sort of an hour out of sync, which is easy enough to do.
Sure.
So don't worry, I've recorded the whole webinar, so we'll be putting it up and sending out a link. Now, Natalie, are you comfortable if I put it up somewhere where it's kind of findable for other people as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My goal is that each of us do better. When each of us does better, our industry as a whole does better. And then again, each of us does even better. So a rising, what is it? A rising tide lifts all ships. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The more we can all help, the better it is. So you can put it out. Everyone who attended, they should feel free to share the workbook, copy the workbook, use it, send the link out, share the link with friends, family, colleagues. Absolutely. The better each of us does, the better all of us do.
Thank you, because ultimately, you know, the work we do is about, you know, making the world a better, safer, more peaceful place. So it's
That is absolutely right. Absolutely right. And just for general math purposes, I give away about 30% of my business every year.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's it's part of our human obligation, in my estimation, that if you've done well, you're obligated to turn around and help other people. And in our industry in particular, when the bulk of our efforts are spent helping people, it would be absolutely antithesis to my business if I said I wasn't willing to volunteer or help the helpers. Helping the helpers is one.
Yeah.
Yep, I help the helpers. So absolutely, spread it as far and wide as you are inclined.
Absolutely. No, that's wonderful. So thank you once again, and I think we'll say good night, good morning, good middle of the day, or whatever it is for where you are.
Best regards.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for attending.
Thank you so much. God bless you all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.